What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard back at it with another video. Today we are continuing the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh! So basically, I'm just going to be covering one of the GOAT format decks from 2005. Ban list is from March to September. This is called Reasoning Gate Turbo. Basically, this is a little bit different from the standard traditional GOAT decks where a lot of people were setting and passing and things like that. This is opting to use cards like Reasoning and Monster Gate to summon a lot of bodies at once to try to go for an OTK. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and just dive into the profile. To start things off, we got the best monster of the deck, other than Blackluster Soldier, of course, is Dark Magician of Chaos. It's one of my favorite cards from back in the day. Basically, this card received an errata. Back then, if this card was summoned, you can just add back any spell card from your graveyard. Now you have to wait till the end phase, but yeah, they had to do something about all these broken Chaos cards, or they would have stayed on the ban list forever. So yeah, we have Dark Magician of Chaos, or other known as DMOC. And then we gotta play Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, because this card is just absolutely insane. We can just OTK with this way easier in this deck than the traditional ones. And then we do play 3 copies of Chaos Sorcerer. Now, Chaos Sorcerer is really good for this strategy because if you mill Chaos Sorcerer with Reasoning, it can't be normal summoned or set, so your Reasoning will just keep going, and then you're also fueling your graveyard for lights and darks as well. So Chaos Sorcerer is just like another component to the strategy, and it's just a big body, and it's removal. It can get rid of a Spirit Reaper really easy. Yeah, and it's very easy to summon in this deck. But then, of course, we have to play Jinzo. Jinzo is just really good because we don't play many trap cards, so we don't have a lot of defense. So Jinzo just being able to stop our opponent's traps is just really good. But then in my particular build, I choose to play 2 Air Knight Parshath. Some people only play 1. I actually like this at 2 because chances are they're not going to call 5 off of Reasoning. So just having another really good monster, and it's a light, just for those particular instances is the reason why I like 2. I do play 3 Sacred Crane. Sacred Crane is just really important in this deck because if most of the time they're going to call 4, which is okay because yeah, you might neg 1 by this going to the graveyard if they call 4, but you have a light in the dark, or in the graveyard, sorry. So just being able to fuel your graveyard as quick as possible is really essential to the strategy. So Sacred Crane, if they do call like an 8 and you summon this, you're just going to be able to draw a free card. So yeah, that is the only monsters I play in the deck, to be honest. They're all pretty big. We have Air Knights, Jinzo, you know, all these. But yeah, we really want to abuse this with Dimension Fusion. That's pretty much our goal. And then moving on to the spells, of course, we have like the power spells, you know, Pot of Greed, Delinquent Duo, Graceful Charity. They call this the trio in GOAT format, which if you open the trio, chances are you're probably gonna win. But then we also have the core strategy of this deck, and that is Dimension Fusion. 3 different rarities, I'd love to see it. But yes, Dimension Fusion is the most broken card in this deck because we banish cards really fast. And by paying 2,000 life points, you can summon as many of them as possible. So yeah, it's very easy to OTK, and Go format's a relatively slow format. So OTK decks are very far and few between. Now, we do play Reasoning. This is also like the heart and soul of this deck because we want to be able to summon a big monster without tributing. That is like one of our main goals with this strategy. And then we do play 3 Monster Gate. Monster Gate, just like Reasoning, is just going to summon big bodies from your deck. But yeah, you can also tribute like Scapegoat tokens for them as well. So I mean, yeah, it's really really good on how all that synergizes. But yeah, just kind of tying into the scapegoats, we do play 3 of them just because playing scapegoat, we can maximize the monster gates. Scapegoat is really really good in this deck. We don't have a whole lot of defensive traps. We're trying to set up our board for the OTK. So scapegoat is going to help buy us a few turns in order to do that because it doesn't usually take too long. But in addition to Scapegoat, we also have to play, and it might seem a little funky, but 3 Metamorphoses. So yeah, it might seem like bricky in traditional Go decks to play more than 2 of this, but in this particular strategy, we're trying to build up momentum as quick as possible, and with Scapegoat tokens, Metamorphosis is never dead. But we also play Premature Burial just because we can revive our Dark Magician of Chaos, and then Snatch Steal. But the best card of all cards, I should say, are 3 Giant Trunade and a Heavy Storm. Mainly because what we're looking to do in this deck is set up for a blowout. We want to be able to just Giant Trunade the whole field away and just cleanup time, because now we can Dimension Fusion and summon as many monsters as we possibly can from Banished and use Dark Magician of Chaos to get back like some really good cards from the graveyard, spell cards, and then we just keep going and we just OTK our opponent. So that's why we need 3 Trunade and Heavy Storm as well. But that's really it for the spells that we play in this strategy. There are 2 more spells, and the only other 2 spells I choose to play are Upstart Goblin. Now, this may seem a little unconventional, but in this deck, you can put up more than like 10,000 damage on the field in 1 turn. So Upstart Goblin, it doesn't really matter giving them life points, and you want to get through your deck as quick as possible in this deck. I do play 3 trap cards, and that's it. And that's just Mirror Force, because Mirror Force is also another blowout, and if they suspect that you're not playing Mirror Force, then they're going to like just continuously play into it, which they get punished if they think that you just assume you don't play it because you're on Reasoning Gate. And then also Ring of Destruction, because we can put up so much damage early that Ring of Destruction is just game in a lot of cases. But then last but not least, I do play Call of the Haunted. Call of the Haunted is really important in this deck because you can revive a Dark Magician of Chaos. You can revive your Chaos Sorcerer if it was summoned properly. Yeah, so it's very important. Not to mention Sacred Crane to draw a free card. Yeah, so that's really it for the main deck of the Reasoning Gate Turbo. Now, for the extra deck, very similar to the last GOAT one, you can play as many cards as you possibly want in your extra deck in this format. You could play 3 of everything, so I would highly recommend playing 3 of the ones that matter. And those cards are 3 Thousand Eyes Restrict. I only have 2 in my build, but I would play 3 because you can keep recycling Metamorphosis as much as you want. So you can easily go through 3 of these. Now, I do play these 2, but you don't really need these, but I would still max out on them just because you can. Because the level 3 that you'll need is Flame Ghost, because it is a dark. So this is going to inherently synergize with the strategy, and you should have 3 of these in your deck. And then as well as the level 4s, we got Dark Fire Dragon. I would max out on this one because this is the only level 4 dark that, 1500 attack. And yeah, it's really good. Carbanola Warrior's decent, but Dark Fire Dragon is just infinitely better because it's dark. For the level 5s, we got Reaper on the Nightmare. It's basically just Spirit Reaper. Yeah, it can attack directly, but you don't always make this because you're trying to OTK your opponent. I do play Flame Swordsman because my brother Jordan. And then also Dark Balter the Terrible. This card is the card that this deck loses to. So you want to be able to out this card as much as possible, which is why we play Mirror Force as well as Ring of Destruction. And then we do play Fiend Skull Dragon. It's another card that might come up. Doesn't come up a lot though. And we also play Metal Dragon just because we can have an unlimited extra deck. Dark Flare Knight doesn't come up all the time, but this card can come up. It's better to have it than not have it. And then Ryu Senshi, I would definitely max out on this. Even though this isn't a dark, it still has a really powerful effect. But then, you know, we also play the Ojama King just because it's a really big body in defense mode. And then Darkblade the Dragon Knight is really good against Chaos decks because you could banish 3 monsters upon doing damage. And then I do play Gatling Dragon. Gatling Dragon is really important for this strategy because you can Dimension Fusion a Dark Magician of Chaos, add back Dimension Fusion, Metamorphosis, banish the Dark Magician of Chaos, summon this, and then Dimension Fusion again. So Gatling Dragon is really, really good in this deck, and it can blow up cards. And then last but not least, we have Master of Oz. This card will probably never come up, but it's better to have it than to not have it. But yeah, so that does it for the Reasoning Gate Turbo deck. I really hope you all enjoyed the profile and the explanation of the format as well. Stay tuned for the next episode of Meta History of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not Dragon Ball Z, I promise. But yeah, I will see you in the next one.